Hi everybody, welcome back. My name's Chuck Friedman and I host Developers Edge. I'm so excited to welcome back Addison Snidel, our video producer, to talk about today's very special episode. Hi Addison.
Hi, I'm very excited to be here again for season 3 of Developers Edge.
Today's episode of Developers Edge is a really special one. Among all the people that I've worked with in developer relations and other roles, Amara is right at the top. Her career has been extremely influential and inspirational to so many people, including myself. She does great work enabling developers, and it was really awesome to have her on the show.
Yes, I found Amara extremely fascinating. She's not someone you generally find in the developer space. It's really her career that did it for me. She started out as a developer, but wanted to do more. And I think with a skill set like hers, she was able to. Her goal was to enable developers because developers are truly the backbone of everything technology. Being able to successfully explain the technical part of how things work to a customer and to developer just saves money, time, and it's very important. So I find the conversation to be very fascinating today.
Well, let's go to our wonderful conversation with Amara Graham. So happy that she was able to spend time with us on Developers Edge. Hey everybody, welcome back to an amazingly special episode of Developers Edge. Today, I couldn't be more thrilled to welcome longtime friend and colleague Amara Graham, who's head of developer experience at Camunda. Amara, so happy to talk to you today. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and so excited to talk to you.
I really want to hear so much about how the last couple of years have shaped your career, propelled you into the role that you have now. What are you doing at Camunda?
So I run our developer experience program, which is one of the 3 pillars that we have under our developer relations team or department. We in developer experience focus on documentation. So that's our technical documentation, how to use the product, how to work with the product. We also have a contributor experience side of things, including our Camunda Community Hub, where we have people who build open source projects, contribute back to the community of folks that are working around the Camunda ecosystem. And then we also represent or run our forum as well.
Looking back on what you've achieved and the success of the developers that you've worked with, is there something about your approach or your understanding of this role that makes you particularly successful in enabling developers?
I think just having the background as a developer, whether it was developing, production scenario things like I was doing in enterprise applications, or just having a technical skill set, I think that's incredibly helpful because you're building technical things or you're needing to communicate with technical people on highly technical topics. So it kind of gives you the ability to gain their trust very quickly, produce an authentic message that says, hey, I was a developer too. I may be a recovering developer now. But it makes those connections and those relationships a lot easier to foster.
Let's go back a little bit to where this passion and interest for DevRel started. I'd love to hear where you were in your career and sort of when you had that kind of aha moment that it was time to pivot or that there was an opportunity to pivot into what you do today.
So the team that I was working with was a team of what we called capability engineers, along with some enterprise architects. Each of us owned a platform, a development platform that we used internally throughout Intel, mostly in IT, but there were other areas of the company that worked with these platforms or had solutions and applications running on these platforms as well. So I was a developer who was enabling developers to kind of start the theme there. But I was working with other developers, teaching them how to use these platforms and really guiding them through building the solutions that either they or their business organization, business stakeholders were the experts in. And that's when I had some conversations with the architect that I was working with, the enterprise architect, Kyle Short. And I didn't really know what the next step was. I knew I wanted to be able to interact with more developers, get a broader perspective. And he was the one who introduced this concept of, I think at the time it was, evangelism. If you heard of evangelism, there's a lot of smaller companies that are doing it. It's basically being a liaison between the internal teams at the company and the external developer community. And I was like, cool, that's interesting. Fast forward, was able to find a internal community management position that Chuck, you posted in a different team at Intel. And it was a project that was open source. I really wanted to go in the direction where I could broaden my reach and help more developers and teach more developers, interact with more developers, and see different solutions, and really kind of go after that curiosity of what are other developers doing in the world, whether it's in IT or in other places. And the community management position was really great because it put me in a place where I could do that, but I could also grow my skills and understand how the world of DevRel was evolving. Because I think I entered right around the same time that we were kind of moving away from the traditional evangelist role and into more of what is now considered a developer advocate, and the differences between those. And I really found kind of a leaning towards enablement and developer advocacy with kind of that enablement flair to it.
Are there metrics like time to first code, or maybe some things that you've created in this role that you can measure the success and impact that you're having on developers?
We are actively looking at how people navigate through our documentation. You could consider that a user journey or a flow, but using things like Google Analytics, we're able to see how people spend their time in documentation. It could be the amount of time they spend on a page, and that's going to depend on the kind of content that they're viewing. If it's something like a how-to, we would like to see that time on page be roughly about the time it should take for them to complete it from beginning to end. If they're on a page that's more like a resource or a reference page, maybe API reference or glossary, they may only visit for a couple of minutes, couple of seconds, and then get what they need and leave. And that's also very, very successful. So what we're doing now actually is taking a look at our documentation, how people flow through it, the time that they're spending on each of those pages, and the journey that they're taking through our documentation, so that we can then make more informed decisions about how we in developer experience want to evolve our documentation over time, or how we want to advocate internally for changes there. So it's not necessarily like a number of page views type metrics. It's not something that skews more towards what I would describe as vanity metrics. It's more enablement metrics. What are people doing with our docs? And then how can we influence changes internally to make it easier or more efficient? You've been in developer advocacy, and then you've taken roles that have pulled you outside of developer relations. Has that changed what you're doing in the developer relations and advocacy space now?
Two things happened. My kids got to a certain age where they're like, why are you leaving us 2 or 3 times a month to go talk with other people? And I found that developer advocacy got to be so reliant on our ability to listen to our community of developers and effectively share that feedback with product teams, and that was a skill that I was missing. I had a great appreciation for product, of course, and in several roles was aligned with product, but talking the use cases, the user stories, how to get that converted into something that would effectively translate to become priority was getting frustrating. So I did take a break from DevRel for a couple of years, went to work on some amazing projects to sharpen my ability and interest in how product teams work. So I became a product manager for a couple of really, really fun products, and all dependent on platforms, all dependent on APIs. Still working with developers very much, but from sort of the other side of the lens. I just can't thank you enough for the time being on Developer's Edge with me and having this great conversation. So thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the questions that got me thinking about blasts from the past moments and where I've come and how we work together. It's been really cool.
Thanks for joining us today on Developer's Edge. If you liked the conversation, be sure to subscribe and check out our other series. For additional content, tune in to the Developer's Edge podcast, available on Google, Spotify, and Apple. Until next time, take care, and we'll talk again soon.